So what were we discussing yesterday? Any idea?
Vendor groups and creation of vendors.
Vendor groups and
Creation of vendors.
creation of vendors. One second. So vendor groups and creation of vendors. Went for MRF. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I think you can see my screen. Yesterday we have discussed about various methods of payments and menu details in the methods of payments. Then we have discussed about vendor groups, how many different ways we can categorize our vendors. Then I think we have created a vendor. One vendor was previously created. So for creating vendor, we have to navigate accounts payable, vendors and all vendors here. Okay. I think we have created one vendor yesterday, and previously I have created one more vendor for demonstrating the check process for making some payments. I hope you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, visible.
Okay.
Perfect. So today let us try to understand how many different menus and options we have under a vendor account. So yesterday we have configured this vendor account, right? We have created. So for creating a vendor account, the minimum details that you require is that this vendor account number, vendor name, and the group. So that would be enough. And the currency also you can give. Actually, that I'll show you that part, how to give currency. If it is a foreign currency vendor, how to give a foreign currency. Currency is also important, but basically it picks the default currency. So without giving currency also it does not work, but system automatically picks the default currency. So basically the three main important fields is that vendor account number, name and group are compulsory. Okay, you can also fix certain fields as compulsory fields. For that there is a process actually. So we'll discuss that later. So that there is a feature actually to designate one particular field as compulsory field, mandatory. So I'm clicking on this vendor account. So it normally opens the menu details in the vendor. I'll click on edit in order to add some details here. Okay, let's go by menu. Okay, I'll just collapse all the details here. So I'm sorry, I'm expanded all. Click here and click on collapse all. If I collapse all, I see lot of menus: general, address, contact information, miscellaneous details, vendor profile, purchasing demographics, and then all these details we have financial dimensions. So out of all these menus we have, so we will discuss about those few menus which are important for the finance side. So there are also menus that are mostly into supply chain. So, to be frank, creation of vendors and the master data is mostly into supply chain. Supply chain consultant usually look into it, but as a finance functional consultant, you also need to understand the different menus as well as the default items in the vendor master. So all the information that we give is called as vendor master data. Okay. So let's see with this menu general what we have here. So we normally have this vendor account here, then the vendor name, then the search name for the vendor. So whatever name you give, normally it takes the search name here. So if you want to give a different name here under search name, you can give. So normally some organizations have one name as their organization name, but they have a brand name on of which the particular company is popular in market. So that kind of brand names you can give here if in case if you want to give another name, or else you can go with the same name. The system automatically takes the search name from here. Then assigning the vendor group, which is important. So you create a vendor and you know which particular group the vendor falls into or the vendor account falls into. So you can select one vendor group for the vendor that you create. Domestic or foreign vendor or local vendor, or it's an employee, you can select one group. So for the other vendor we'll select another group like foreign group and we'll give a foreign currency. Okay. Then all these details that are shown up here are not mandatory. So you can give the number of employees in the vendor organization. Suppose if vendor is an organization, a company, you know, it takes here actually. If it is a person or company or organization, you have to give it initially itself, either organization or person. Organization means a company, person means, you know, how do you say, a individual person or a person registered single person company or partnership company like that, you can give details here. Mostly it will be organization only, and you can give the number of employees in the organization. Like if there are 100 employees, 200 employees, it's a maintainable field, not required, but you can give. And you have an option called as organization number, like a unique number for the company of the vendor, or any registration ID of the vendor with any other authority. If they have anything as such, you can give that organization number here. It's also not compulsory, maintainable. Then we have this option of ABC codes. Actually, this is prominent to US ABC codes, which means like you can categorize the vendors on the basis of these codes according to the nature of the business or about the turnover. I think they'll normally be given with ABC codes. So to which particular category this vendor falls into, A category, B category, or C category, accordingly we can select one. It's not required, but you can select one. DUNS number is also particularly related to a registration number, I think, in US. So that also you can give here in the master data. Then other information like address books prominently known as, you can give a brand name here, prominently known as. Address book we normally create here, addresses, so we'll go back there rather than giving it here. Then phonetic name, you know, right? MRF is Madras Rubber Factory is our company name. MRF is a phonetic name. In the same way, there are companies which have phonetic names. So you can give such phonetic name here, that alphabets like this. Then language of the vendor. Mostly it will take the default language from the legal entity. When we have created legal entity, we have given the default language as English US. So it automatically take English US as the default language. If the vendor follows English Europe or any other language like Spanish or something, you can give that just for maintenance sake again. Okay. I think if we give it it would be better if for printing reports. I think it will sometimes consider this language of the vendor actually. So you can give it if you want to, but if they normally they will follow whatever the legal entity language, the same language they will follow. Since English is the common language, I've went for English US only. Then we have this option of vendor collaboration. So vendor collaboration normally works when the vendor company is also having Dynamics. So you are having Dynamics here, and if they also have Dynamics there, you can normally link vendor collaboration, collaborate with the vendor. What happens when we have this collaboration is when we create any purchase order in our system against this particular vendor, that vendor can look that purchase order and confirm it. He can't do anything, just he can look into the insights, how much quantity is selected, how much pricing is selected, how much discount is selected, and he can confirm the order. There is that option. Not most of the people have this collaboration because they don't want to give access to outsiders or the vendor to look into what kind of purchase orders are created against them. Normally the vendor will come to know because he is the one who delivers the goods, right? So what purchase orders is created and what invoice has to be sent, it will be in vendor hands only all the time. But since if they are also using Dynamics, then this collaboration can be activated, I think, or I think that's the thing. I never worked on this collaboration of vendors, but so that's the only option we have here. So it's not active means we are not using it. So other than that, we have activate PO is not auto confirmed, activate PO is auto confirmed, where in the collaboration vendors can just view the data and could not confirm the PO. But if I select this, I think they can confirm the PO as well, the purchase order. That's the process. So that's all we have in this general menu. So I'll go a little quicker because all these details are not so much important, but just for the overview sake, I'm explaining for you to understand. Okay, so the most important here in this journal are this one, these first four: vendor account, name and group, and also search name. Then let's close this and go to the other menu, addresses. Talk about addresses of the vendor. So there can be multiple addresses, right? A vendor might have a business address, a vendor might have another location, another warehouse address, a vendor might have another address. So there can be multiple addresses for a vendor. Okay, suppose if we have to send a check to a vendor, how do we know to which address we have to send the check? So for that, sending the checks or any other financial documents to the vendor, we will create one address. For vendor's main location where it is the business office is located, for that we can create another address. And if at all we have to return goods to the vendor, suppose there are certain goods delivered by vendor to us, but we have to return it back to the vendor because the goods are not proper and we are returning them. So where do we have to return the goods? For that also we can create a different address. So we can create multiple addresses for a vendor. Understand that. And each address will have a address purpose. Just like in our legal entity, we have created addresses and purposes, right? In the same way, we can create multiple addresses with a different purpose code. So we will see now how we can create different addresses and how we can assign one address as a primary address for the vendor. Let's see. To create an address, just click here on these three dots. Click on add here, add. So Sahara is the vendor name, right? Okay. So I'll give it name here, Sahara Limited. Then you can see the purpose here, the purpose of the address. Is it business address, consignment address, delivery address, if it is a fixed asset place address. So this is in perspective of all the different purposes we have. We can use them for customers, vendors, or we can also use them for legal entity all for, but for vendors, we normally use this business address, which should be the main address of the vendor. Secondly, we will use delivery address in case if we want to return any goods. So to which address that has to be delivered. Third and most important is remit to address. Remit to address purpose is the address is the where we send checks or any other financial documents like promissory notes. So that will be sent to this remit to address. Okay, so remember, whenever you are generating any check, system will automatically pick this remit to account. Suppose if you want to print check on name of another person rather than Sahara Limited, you can create remit to address on different person name. So that check will be printed on that particular person's name. If that vendor specification is like that, you can also create multiple remit to addresses so that while printing check, you can select different address. You will have that option of selecting addresses in the vendor payment journal. I'll show you once again while we do it. So there you have that option. There you can select any of the remit to address if you have multiple remit to addresses. So that check will be printed on that particular name here. If you give a name, right? So on that name, it will be printed here. If I give Sahara Limited on check, also Sahara Limited will be printed. If I give a different name, that name will be printed. Okay, that is when we select remit to. Okay, these are the most important: business, delivery, and remit to. Okay, keep that in mind. So if I'm selecting business address, so I can select country, postal code, and then the street and all details, then city, state, county. And if it is a primary address or if it is primary for a country or region, I can select. So I can select a country. I can select any country. Let me see if I can select India here. Here I have India selected. Yes. Then I can select a postal code 50085. System does have it or not have it. If it have in database, it will show. If there is nothing in database, it won't normally show. See 50085. We don't have anything, but it took the number. Then I can give the details here. Any details? 1 second. Then I can give anything like 1-45. Street number 13. You can give anything. We'll go with Anakramgooda, Gachibowli, Hyderabad, right? I can give building complement, how the building looks like, white building, red building, or mirror building, or any other building complement. Then post box number, then city, we can select Hyderabad. Let me select, yeah, we have Hyderabad here, Hyderabad. Then district, you can select state, Andhra, Hyderabad. Okay, primary. So you can select one address as a primary address, which should be the main address of the company. So if this business address is the main address of the company, I'll keep it as the primary address. Okay, for any queries, we normally reach out to the primary address location. Right? Then private, you can keep private if your address is private, and if it's not private and if it is visible for all, you can keep it as no only. Okay, it's not a private address. Then primary for country or region. Suppose if this vendor have various addresses, like in India, we have one address. In India is present in India as well as outside India. We can give Indian address within Indian addresses. Suppose if there are 3 Indian addresses and